Want to start out the morning with veteran journalist and columnist who has visited us here many times because he always finds a way of doing part of what is our mandate here. If there is a pebble in the middle of the water, we'll follow the swirl. If there are some things on the periphery, however, we will bring it to the center. He does exactly that. His name is Errol Pilgrim. He writes for the Trinidad and Tobago Mirror. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I am fine, Rennie.
Let me see if I can get your microphone here. There we go. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Rennie. It's good to be here again.
It's good to see you here again. And we also have with us this morning Kathryn McConnie, who is a lecturer. Kathryn, good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you.
It is the first time meeting up with you, and I'm happy to do that. We will get to you in a moment. I want to get across to my first guest, the person who is the who is the troublemaker? No, he is the one who gets in there and finds the trouble, finds the problem, and brings them before. And we are talking about what is called the textbook mafia. How this operates, according to Mr. Pilgrim's article that's in the Mirror this week, is that you have a group of people with a monopoly. Not dissimilar to a lot of 1% situations all over the world. Stop it. All over the world. Not dissimilar to that, a group of people having a monopoly, and they control the prices of things, where parents are going through a very difficult time, having gone through all the anxiety of the exams and so on. Their kids just sat, and the whole question of trying to make ends meet, they run into the problem of, now I have to face a school book that was $290 last time. You mean I got to buy this again? Okay, whoop. 300 and well, whatever. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. The appreciation of these costs when essentially nothing fundamental has changed. And if something has changed, well, maybe they will remove the soft cover and put a hard cover or something like this. It is something that's unconscionable on the best day. So, Errol Pilgrim, that's your article this week. It talks about what is going through the terrorizing of our parents. Make your case for our listeners this morning, please. This is from your article that's available for everybody.
Well, Rennie, I'm glad to be here again, as I said. One of the things that happened since I wrote this article is that I've been getting a number of calls from parents who are aggrieved and who are happy that someone has brought to public notice what is really going on. Mm-hmm. And one of the major complaints is that children who have been in a previous class in the secondary school, for whom a book list was organized and parents went out there, spent their money and bought these books. And now that the child has moved on, has advanced to a higher standard, these books have now become obsolete because a succeeding child in the same Form 1, cannot use the book.
Yes.
And what I found is that I've been able to secure copies of some of the book lists. And what I've found is that in a lot of cases, what has happened is that the title of the book is changed. Mm-hmm. There are new authors, but the content remains the same.
No, wait a minute. When I mentioned you can move from a soft cover to a hard cover, at least you can say there's some material input here that may have changed. And right now what you're saying is a mere change of name.
Yes.
Okay.
And what that involves is that the new book costs sometimes 50% more than the previous book. That is now obsolete. So you'll notice that in a part of the article it says that parents now have to consign these books to an old box and push it below the bed.
Well, it makes no sense even doing that, because before, when that was done, was to keep up with the hand-me-down syndrome. Now you can't hand-me-down anything because, the thing is just not of any value.
That's right.
All right. So we are saying that basically we're talking about something that's just crooked. You can find wonderful ways to say this. This is just crooked.
Definitely.
Okay. It is just crooked, and you can only be crooked if there is a lack of competition, which brings us into the area of the monopoly.
Well, the other part of that being crooked is that somebody is allowing it, and one has to ask questions of the authorities.
Yes.
Because the Ministry of Education is the authority that is in charge of the curricula for these schools. And if they keep changing the texts to suit the publishers and to disadvantage the parents and even the children, then something is wrong.
Is this ignorance or negligence on behalf of the ministry? Is it that they don't know about these things, or is it because they are feeling in their responsibility, and or there is the other side, that there is another incentive?
Rennie, there's a frightening thing about this society, people do the wrong things, it's accepted, and it becomes part of the culture. So I believe this is part of the culture of the Ministry of Education.
Let me ask this question again. Is it ignorance, negligence, or corruption? Since you didn't want me to use the word, I used it the third time.
I think this is for the Minister of Education to find out.
As an investigating journalist, you found it more leaning on the side of negligence, incompetence, or corruption?
Corruption.
Thank you very much.
Corruption.
Ooh, remind me talking to Donald Trump here. No, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to get to the point where we call a spade. In lieu of Virginia, maybe I shouldn't use that term. But we have to get to the point where we say it is what it is. There is no way. And in addition to that, is this a new phenomenon? That is to say, in the last 10 years or so, I'm trying to understand, is this a new occurrence that we have, this monopoly, this switching of the dice switching, really, three-card Monty. Are we in a situation where this has just happened in the last 10 years, or this has been going on for a long time, is my question.
Well, I think it's a situation that has been building up over the last 10 years. Because previous to that, there was the passing on syndrome where the child could have passed on the book to a succeeding child who would go to the same class.
You mean the common sense syndrome, yes.
Yes, the book list will remain the same, except for, if there's some improvement in the thinking, in the analysis, or whatever, there would be the change. But not this blatant sense of something going wrong, some corruption,
Errol Pilgrim is the voice you're hearing, veteran journalist with us this morning. He's all a columnist for the Trinidad Mirror. We're going to get to the other guest, Kathryn, McConnie, in just a moment. I just want to continue this. In your investigation, did you get a chance to speak to anybody at all at the ministry? And if so, you got any explanation as to this oversight? I'm being nice. To this oversight?
Well, that public servants are constrained from speaking with the media.
AKA no.
Yes, but but that is not for the want of effort. Of course, I have certain sources who prefer to remain anonymous and who are also concerned about what is happening.
Yes.
And what they're telling me.
It's disturbing, yes.
Yeah, what they're telling me is, you see, we have had a whole lot of changes in ministers of education, but it seems that there is a particular kind of pattern that each of these ministers follow.
You have said ministers. Let me cross you for a moment here. You said ministers a couple of times, and there was a reason I inquired of you how long this has been going on. Because if it is merely a case of a minister oversight that's approving this, then I would be looking at, with a change of government, I would get a discontinuance of this practice. But if we have a consistency going on, we're looking at public servants.
Definitely.
Good. So leave the ministers out of this. This is public servants
doing
their thing.
The minister is the one who establishes policy. And if something is wrong with the policy, then he has to look at it and make sure that his policy is carried out by the people who are in his ministry.
Good enough. I'll buy that. I just know that, as you do, 90% of getting anything done, it comes from the soldiers down below. But yes, the general must, of course, direct the ship. But there's a lot of graft that goes on in the public service that folks don't want to face. It just happens to be a real fact. When the Prime Minister said, when we talk about corruption, we must all look at our part in it. A lot of folks, and the only reason I'm going down this avenue is this. Too often we hear something goes wrong and people say, deal with the government minister, deal with this. Come on, there are people in between you who should be seeing this thing and saying something. Definitely. And they are doing it. All right. Let me bring in the other guest that Mr. Pilgrim brought with him, Kathryn McConnie, and I am so happy to have you here. Kathryn has been in the hospitality and tourism industry as a lecturer for 24 years, lecturing throughout Trinidad and Tobago in communities and tertiary level institutions to students from 14 to 60 years of age. She has published her own text for tour guide training and about to publish 2 other texts. One on customer service. God, I would love to talk to you about that. And the other one, touring Trinidad and Tobago. The reason that I'm happy you're here is because we look at the problem as articulated by Errol and his investigation and many other mothers. And then we say, okay, what do we do from here? What is the solution? So we don't act like the echo chamber, but we act like the echo chamber, the potential problem finder, and the alternative presenters. Let's present some alternative. Talk to me about, in welcoming you here, talk to me about digital use of digital material for schools, please. Digital
Once
text.
again, thank you for having me here. E-books, I think, is the way to go.
E-books.
And many of the institutions today are using e-books. For me, I'm also quite into conserving the environment, so that's of course saving people, saving
tree
trees.
hugger.
Yes,
okay. Yes.
You know. But besides that, the ebook has more portability. It's lighter to carry around, and definitely it is cheaper. It is much cheaper. It's easy to download. You don't have to go gallivanting all over the place looking for the right price for a book. It's right there. It's accessible to you in the palm of your hand on your phone. And every child today has a phone that is WhatsApp and all the rest of it on it. That's right, smartphone, that's correct. And that book can travel with them. And I think ebooks are definitely the way to go.
I'm happy that you make that point, because one of the arguments we will hear is the disadvantaged children whose parents are the ones complaining about this cost are the ones least able to afford a laptop. Because that's what folks immediately associate with it, but you went the area of the telephones and so on, where folks can download stuff. Please continue.
That's right. But even a lot of the kids are getting laptops after the common entrance, the C exam, so therefore they have laptops to use. So that's not a problem either. The book is at their hand, you know. It's also a situation where the e-book makes for easier learning, simply because we have to go with the technology and the trends. And if it is that you are going to use it on the laptop one time, you are learning more about technology. Okay. You as a child you're going to be better advanced as you get older, you know, to be able to deal with the competitive environment that we are in. And therefore you would excel. I think the ebook is definitely the way to go.
A lot of folks, as I said, will raise the question of even kids. Do you think the kids now, it's kind of rhetorical, some would say, would you say the kids now are technologically aware enough to be using something like ebooks? And who is going to purchase it? One, that's another question. Who's going to purchase it? And the whole question of introducing phones in school where they can do school study. Now, they're using it when they shouldn't, but the whole idea of introducing that in schools can present additional problems. It is argued. Speak to that, please.
Okay, well, I mean, definitely I think that the parents would have to do the purchasing of the books online, and they would have to monitor, of course, where it is stored and so forth. With regards to being technologically advanced, I say young people are far ahead, you know, and I would say myself and other older persons, you know, like the gentleman next to me, we need to be with the times to be able to get to know what they're doing. And of course, when it comes to in the classroom utilizing it, we can't get away from it. We just can't. You're in the classroom, the students have the phones, you tell them, you know, turn off your phones, you're not allowed to be. It's better you say, take out the phone, let's use it for a good purpose, than just using it for the WhatsApp and the Snapchat and that kind of thing. I
concur with that, and I see the common sense with which you're alluding to. I am just mindful that there are going to be a myriad of problems that will come along with having them using phones in schools. I mean, you know, I know they are, and I know you can say whatever you want, and they're still doing it, but now they have a basic excuse. Miss, I'm studying.
Well, you know what? When you had your books, you used to put magazines in front of it and read magazines instead of textbooks.
You had some days I should know about. But that is true, yes.
So no matter how you deal with it, it's a situation that's going to happen, and we're going to find ways to work with it to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Kathryn, McConnie, explain to me what you think is the reluctance to go there. Why have we not gone there? Your best understanding of it. I mean, you are going out, you're lecturing, and you're encountering students, and I'm sure you're also encountering administrators. The question is there a reluctance? And if so, what is that reluctance?
Well, if I'm to relate it to Errol's story, I would definitely say money. I would say that people are benefiting from the print, and and not thinking in terms of what is the best way for the child.
I like your solution here, Errol. I just wanted to raise one question with you, because while you said in some instances, not all, you didn't say that. In some instances, folks are merely changing the title of a textbook, or adding one line or so on. There is the argument that in the area of textbooks, because the technology is ever changing, there is reason to update these books, and that may be one of the justifications proffered as to why we have this increase in cost.
Well, Rennie, one of the things that again, the authorities need to look at is content.
Mm-hmm.
Are these books fulfilling the need that we may identify for conforming with our developmental goals in Trinidad and Tobago?
Mm-hmm.
Very early in his tenure as Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley promised that a look would be taken of a comprehensive review of the curricula in the schools, with a view to having history, Trinidad and Tobago and West Indian history taught in the schools, because a lot of there's a vacuum in learning about what has happened in the past. And it's almost a cliche now that says, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. So that content has to be looked at. And I have found one situation that was referred to me for my attention was that a child in Form 4, or a child in Standard 4 in the primary school has the same book list, except for one or two books, as a child going into Form 1 in the secondary school. So something is wrong somewhere, and they are all they're all new books.
You see, I like when you open these doors, because there's another door you just opened there. That whole door of who's controlling what our kids are being taught. If you've got a group with an agenda, for instance, and from what we see, just for the price of it, unmonitored, or at least having a good understanding, wink, wink, having a good understanding as to why they can continue, then an agenda can, in fact, be pushed on our children. I mean, it just because you opened the door, I thought I would look inside of there. There is just another area of it. I'm sorry, Kathryn, you wanted to make a point on that.
Yes.
Please.
No, my idea with the content, some of the subject areas, content is not going to change, Spanish, French is going to remain the same, English language,
Yes.
Mathematics. I can understand maybe information technology, even maybe some of the science subjects, but still, a lot of them are not.
But if you use information technology, then all it does is buttress your point.
Well, all the more reason why we need ebooks here.
All right. There's a recent example that I find rather disturbing. It's frightening to me. It came out in last week's newspaper, where an edition of a book came out absent Emancipation Day and Indian Arrival Day. And the publisher's explanation was, this is the first print. We will correct it in the second one. As against, I'll withdraw those books and get new ones in the place. Stay with the information here. One of the problems we have, Kathryn, McConnie, is that the backbone does not seem to be in place for all these schools to have access to Wi-Fi and so on. If you go about the area of doing ebooks, you're going to have immediately on the heels of that demand for more technological methods of doing teachings. What have you seen from your outreach to different communities in Trinidad and Tobago as far as the being ready state of our institutions to employ the technology that would come along immediately once you start talking about ebooks? Because make no mistake, as long as you open the car door, I want the luxury seats.
Well, yes, I would say that we are not completely prepared for it at all. However, as you said, it's an opportunity for us to do so, and we need to do so because the rest of the world has gone that way. And we, as I said, it's a competitive world that we are living in, and we have to get with the times.
I'm trying to reconcile all these things here because part of Errol's column this week is the fact that Trinidad and Tobago is not unique in this area of monopoly. True, he cites an area of 2000 to 2012 where this textbook monopoly obtained in the United States, and they are technologically way advanced. Now, why is it? Let me ask Errol the question. Is it still, the monopoly still exists there? Because if, as Kathryn proffers, that this is one way of spreading the information without the monopoly, nobody is more advanced than the United States, and they had a problem with it right up to 2012. Right. Has the introduction of e-learning in one way or the other diminished the control, reduced the control of this textbook mafia you refer to?
Well, I was able to research some of what is happening in the United States, and particularly in Massachusetts. There has been a lot of pushback by the publishers. You see, there were the entire school book publication process was controlled by just 4 publishers who had a monopoly, and they were pushing back against the digital, the move towards ebooks.
Intrusion, yes,
you
on
know,
their profits.
because they, of course, but certain very decisive decisions were taken by the school authorities and so on to get the ebook situation operational. And what has happened now is that a lot of the same publishers who were pushing back against it had to join it, you know. So they are now making the ebooks, which are cheaper, available to the parents, you know, and things have improved in terms of learning, in terms of the youngsters using the technology for positive rather than negative objectives.
Understood.
You know,
and young minds love fads.
Yeah.
And technology is a way to move forward. Give me some of the other advantages, Kathryn, some of the other advantages to going the e-book technological route.
Portability. Portability is a big thing. I mean, you want to travel with your kids during the summer holidays, they still have to have lessons, or do they have homework to do? You have it at your hand. You can do it all the time. Portability for me is a big one. Besides, of course, saving the trees.
Yes. Yeah, and the trees is very important. Yeah. The ecology is something that we must pay attention to, so I don't take that in any small measure at all. The beautiful voice you heard is that of Kathryn McConnie, lecturer. The other beautiful voice you heard is that of Errol Pilgrim, a veteran journalist. He would prefer to be known in that area. Veteran journalist and a columnist for the Mirror. I'm going to ask you folks to stay with me. I invited a member of the National Parent Teachers Association to be with me. Ms. Ramatali offered us Clarence Mendoza, who's the national trustee, who we are happy to have. Mr. Mendoza, a very good morning to you, sir.
Pleasant good morning to you, sir, and your listeners. I want to say pleasant good morning to the NPTA family out there who's already listening, especially our president, Ms. Ramatali.
Fantastic. It's good to have you here. Mr. Pilgrim, Errol Pilgrim, who's a guest on the program, along with Kathryn McConnie. Errol's column in the Trinidad Mirror this week deals with the area of quote-unquote a textbook mafia, folks who are monopolizing the distribution, the manufacture, distribution, and more importantly, cost of textbooks. Has that been drawn to the attention of the National Parent Teachers Association? And if so, explain to me the gravity of the problem as understood by your organization.
Well, the NPTA stands ready and willing to work with any stakeholders in this matter. In order to eliminate the textbook mafia as we see it today, the NPTA recommends that all learning materials should be regulated by a textbook committee.
So you concur with the report that there is, in fact, in some variety or the other, a textbook mafia?
Of course.
Good.
Of course. I mean, the textbook mafia is something that's been around for quite a while, not only in Trinidad, but the wider world.
Indeed, and that we established this morning. But as the National Parent Teachers Association, I know you interact with the government very often. Ms. Ramatali has been on many different sittings with members of the government. My question is: has this been raised, to the best of your knowledge, with the governing bodies in the country, and what sort of response you receive from them, and or suggestion as a solution?
Well, like I'm saying again, the NPTA are giving suggestions, and this should be taken seriously by the Ministry of Education and other technocrats out here. What's happening here, we would like to see a textbook committee comprising of technocrats, such as subject experts from academia and curriculum, who will head the subcommittees which will be looking for relevant contents within our children's textbooks, methodology, readability, such as balance, race, religion, gender. You know, we look for these things, and this is things that is hampering our children and their studies today. We need to move forward. The Ministry of Education need to really step up to the plate in this area and try to remove these textbooks mafia from getting our parents involved and the costing and so forth.
Clarence in Mendoza is the voice you're hearing. He's the national trustee of the national PTA. There is across-the-board concurrence with the content aspect of it. What I am trying to elicit from you this morning is the question of the price of these items. Has this been something, you concur that there is a mafia, but is this something was raised with the government officials on behalf of your organization, and what did you hear coming from them? I mean, this is, as Errol calls it, terrorizing parents, not just this year, but it has been so for a long time.
Well, Errol, at this point in time, the NPTA hasn't raised that per se, but we are looking forward to meet with the Ministry of Education and put this on the table.
My guest this morning, Kathryn McConnie, also raised the question of the digital divide, which I know has been articulated many times, and that is nothing strange to your organization. What is the general feeling from the NPTA on the question of using e-books in the schools as one way of, one, moving with the technology, and two, controlling this price issue?
Well, Errol, if we look at the wider North America, we will realize that e-books has been out there for a while. And at this point in time, parents are saving cash in their pockets of up to 50% in value. You know, we also looking at the digital textbook as being a great idea for our children in Trinidad and Tobago.
Great.
However, we have to look at the economy, the downturns of the economy right now within our country. We don't know if it will ever get back to where it used to be. But at this point in time, the government sector, we need the private sector to come on board. We need to start on it. If we don't start, we wouldn't get there. We need cooperation, you know?
Journalist Errol Pilgrim has a question for you, but just before he comes in, I want to deal with that point you just made about the downturn in the economy. One of the things that I find happens all the time is that we are prepared to spend a lot more money on the back end when it is necessary sometimes to spend it on the front end. Because if you put out the expense for the technology, you are reducing the costs down the line. And you're gearing your folks to really understand true education, which is all-encompassing and ready for a competitive world. Just want to make that point. Errol, you wanted to.
Mr. Mendoza, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
One of the problems that I have been able to unearth is that the government has an arrangement with certain schools to provide textbooks, certain specific textbooks, like in mathematics and so on. And this is to be supplied by the Ministry of Education. But parents have been telling me that they have had endless problems securing these books that the ministry had promised. You know, and some children have gone on to other classes without being provided with the necessary books. Have you identified that as a problem in your dealings with the authorities?
Yes, I have identified that problem. I crossed that problem myself, being a parent in a particular school, where the textbooks are not being returned as it should to the school by some students or per se parents. Okay, we have textbooks that is being distributed, whether it's Form 1, And when it's time to return the textbooks, they're not being returned. So something should be put in place in that matter. We also have textbooks that is being distributed to the schools by the Ministry of Education, which is not even being used. It's on the shelf. And in 2017, 2018 probably will be discarded.
I see a smile coming across Kathryn McConnie's face. She is fully in agreement with that, Kathryn.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, to know that books are staying on a shelf and not being used, it says clearly that something is wrong, and that can't happen with an ebook. An ebook would be downloaded, you have it accessible to yourself, and of course, get away from all the storage and the dust and the rest of it.
Thank you.
So you are in concurrence, and the NP, the National Parent Teachers Association, is in fact looking at this. I'm still a little disquieted, and maybe I should not look at you for an answer, but I will tell you where my disquiet is. I'm a little disquieted at the fact that this mafia, textbook mafia, so-called, has been operating for quite some time. The National Parent Teachers Association has been, your organization has been aware of it, and yet, save for our conversation this morning, I have not heard a squeak about this as a real issue. Is it because this is something was being discussed behind the closed doors?
Well, Errol, I wouldn't say it's being discussed behind closed doors, because if you could recall, I think it's a few years ago. Errol?
No, this is Rennie Bishop, but Errol is the journalist. But we're following you. Go ahead. You believe it was being discussed all the time?
We are looking at probably 2014, 2015. It was a newspaper editorial speaking to where a particular bookstore had books in there that was distributed to from the Ministry of Education to schools, and it was recovered, stating that the books went up for sale. I mean, it was in the Guardian newspaper. It's out in the newspaper, and the parents complained about it, and we never heard anything again about it. So it's a mafia that's going on all around, where books are being reprinted with a different headline, but the contents are the same.
I am not going to single out the NPTA for anything here, save to say that when we have something as egregious as this happening, I would expect it to hear more of a hue and cry coming out from organizations to deal with it. But I am happy that, one, it is being discussed. It now hopefully going to be looked at even more so from your association. I am also happy to hear that you were disposed to the question of e-books in school. And we're going to keep our phones open and be talking and following up with you this morning. Anything else you want to say to the number of parents who this morning are saying to themselves, yeah, I heard what the NPTA had to say, but I am still in the same position I was before we had him on the phone?
Well, at the NPTA, we also like the idea of the book rentals. Okay? Well, but what we are saying, the use of the textbook should be used for 3 years. The Ministry of Education should continue doing its 10% top-up every year on this contingent plan. However, a committee must be put in place with all the technocrats to make sure that there's no book mafia going on within the system. In fact, it's probably the time for parents to make a deposit towards the books. You see? Which is lost, will be refunded when the child as a parent return the books to the school at the final exit of the system. You see?
Yeah.
It's a time that, something has to happen in that year where the book rentals must be covered, but not by the book mafia.
I thank you so much, Clarence Mendoza, National Trustee of the National Parent Teachers Association. E-book seems to be not the panacea, but surely a possible solution. Thank you, sir. You have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks again for having NPTO. We look forward to being on your show again.
By the way, there are a number of parents who may not know of your website. Go ahead and tell them how they can get onto your website and see exactly.
You can contact us at npta.pta, and you can call the head office, our head office, and speak to Mrs. Zina Ramatali. Any questions needed, we are out there on our Facebook page also.
You say npta.pta?
.tt.
.tt. All right. Sir, thank you so much. You have yourself a wonderful day.
Okay, you too.
Thank you so much, Clarence Mendoza. Errol Pilgrim, it is again good to have you bring things to the center here. Your columns are always provoking at the very least. Some politicians will be sitting down and smiling this Sunday because you actually give them a chance to enjoy their breakfast. But thank you, my brother, as always. And I also want to thank Kathryn McConnie. Thank you so much for coming in. Anything you want to pass on to the general audience we have talking with us, having brunch with us this morning on the area of any additional advantages you see to us going totally technological in the teaching of our children, in addition to the money we will save from our primary subject this morning, which is textbooks?
Well, as we discussed before, my thing is being friendly to the environment. My thing is also having the access to the books, just like that, downloading it, portability with it. Of course, the cost is greatly reduced. And
Yes.
this time, we need to reduce some costs.
Cost reduction is important because if, for instance, I take what Errol is saying, if you can buy it, you have to pay, let's say, for instance, $350, let's call it $400 for a book, and you take buying 3 of those via getting a computer, you can put that money together, get a computer,
right.
and you can reduce a whole lot of the cost of all the books.
And we need to get with the program. I mean, technology is where the thing is at today.
And the children are there to learn, and that is the
Exactly,
tool of the world.
exactly.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
All of you, both of you, for coming in this morning.